selections from Darwin's Origin of Species. And one of the things that's really curious about that and what happens with the particular concept I'm going to mention in just a second is that it really changes from the middle of the 19th century into the 20th century. And the word is nature. And one of the things that if you read Origin of Species, you'll notice that sometimes Darwin uses the word nature with lowercase n to start it, but sometimes he uses the word with uppercase n. And if you notice how other people talk about nature from in the second half of the 19th century into the beginning of the 20th century, all of a sudden when they start using the word nature with an uppercase n, they're not just talking about plants and or flora and fauna or something like that. They're doing something else. It becomes, nature is a personification, kind of. And if you just pay attention to one little thing like that, you can suddenly begin to realize that whatever is happening in the text is operating on more than one level, right? And that whatever is meant by that word is not just flora and fauna. It can be a lot of other things as we go on, right? And giving a student a heads up with regard to what to watch for in a reading, little things like that can make a big difference in terms of, okay, I'm in the reading now. Oh my gosh, here's this author is using that word nature with the uppercase n, right? So what did that person just say? I'm going to read that passage one more time because it's uppercase n. How am I supposed to understand this differently? Oh, it's as if nature somehow has volition. Whoa, what does that mean? What does it mean for nature to have volition, to be wanting to do something, right? As opposed to nature simply being a common noun descriptor, maybe for something like flora and fauna, right? So even just that, those little recognitions, those little things help to realize that not only does one read to say, okay, I read this whole paragraph, I maybe even underlined a couple of things, and oh my gosh, maybe even I took a couple of notes or two on the, the margin or on the separate piece of paper or whatever. But it also means maybe I'm learning to be able to see how things come together. Maybe I'm watching to see if there's something that's happening in the first paragraph that's going to connect with paragraphs that come later. Maybe it means that I'm going to be realizing that there are layers of what is being presented as we go forward. And even being able to notice those things. But having clues, it becomes a kind of discovery process. Somebody's giving me clues for what to look for. That will help me to figure out, well, what is up in this text? What is going on in terms of what we're exploring, right? And so those kinds of things can make all the difference, I think. And to connect it with what it means to learn across different disciplines, I would suggest that sometimes even just realizing that a certain concept is used in multiple disciplines or in multiple contexts, that the word nature, when it's used by Darwin, is going to have several meanings, but they might be very different than the meanings that, for example, someone like Wordsworth uses when he talks about nature, when he is describing his experiences of walking around the countryside near Tintern Abbey, right, in his great poem about that. And how he longs for nature when he's living in the city for 5 years straight, right? And what is he longing for? Is he longing for Tintern Abbey, or is he longing for that experience of being in a completely different context, right? So, and you can see how as people who use a language, we use it in so many ways, and we evoke so many different possible ideas with what we do, that when just having someone say, watch this word, and watch how this author is going to use it, and watch how that author is going to use it, and then watch how your professor is going to use it every now and then, right? And whatever else, and how you're going to be using it to describe and explain. That even that is a way of sort of, I don't know, having these wonderful like little hooks to hook into whatever the meaning and learning experience can be, right? Because even with this process of sort of like enticing process of discovery, watch for the word nature. What is he doing with that? What is she doing with that? What's happening? What does nature mean there? What does it mean when it's red in tooth and claw, right? Later on. Oh my gosh, nature's that too? That's terrifying, right? It's like meeting a monster, as opposed to being comforted by walking around the countryside. So lots of different things that are going on. And the whole idea is to see how all these pieces, sort of lead us into the learning, into the text, and into learning about it, and what to pay attention to, and how to notice little things, and how that's what we do even when we ride the bus. We notice little things, right? And we get good at that. And the better we get at that, the more meaningfully maybe we can ask the questions, or say, this just puzzles me no end. What, now what do I do? I know that the word nature is used 57 different ways. I've kept track in my notes, now what do I do? And what's so exciting about it is how thrilling. You've noticed all of these 57 kinds. That's brilliant. Your meticulousness is just awesome. And how are they different? Tell me. I want to be taught, right? And what have we discovered about all these different people who've thought about that notion of nature differently, pretty much having been provoked by some of those 19th century discoveries, right? That change everything. And what are those discoveries that are taking place now that are changing everything as well, right? In terms of learning, like what does learning mean now in the current COVID time? So many different things are going on. And how can I reach someone to try to be, I hope, delightfully, or at least fascinatingly provocative, right? When I might have a group of students who maybe 30 or 40% of them have their little tiles up, right? Just with their names.